Penguin Random House Audio presents Journey Through Trauma, a trail guide to the 5-phase cycle of healing repeated trauma, by Gretchen Schmelzer, Ph.D. Read for you by Adenrele Ojo. For Gail, with gratitude for holding the other end of the rope. Author's note. This book is meant to complement, not substitute for, the advice and recommendations of a treatment provider or support network. It should not be used as an alternative to appropriate medical or psychological care. Journey Through Trauma is considered a support and adjunct to ongoing treatment. You should always consult your own treatment providers about your health, diagnosis, and symptoms. The names and identifying features of patients in this book have been changed to protect their privacy. In some cases, the patients are composites. The focus of clinical examples is on clarification of the issue being discussed. A note on trauma. While this book is written specifically for people who have experienced repeated trauma that happens more than once and often over months and years, I make no claim to define for you what trauma is or to diagnose your current state. My goal is to help you heal from the hurt that you experienced, dismantle the protections from trauma that are no longer serving you, and experience the growth and development you may have missed. In my work, there have been plenty of people who would not have identified themselves as trauma survivors, who have found this process of healing helpful. People who have endured physical illness or loss of a family member, or people who have lived under difficult stress for long stretches of time. If you identify as a trauma survivor and find this work helpful, that is fine. And if you don't identify as a trauma survivor and find this work helpful, that is fine too. The aim of this book is not to categorize or label how you were hurt. The goal of this book is to support your journey of healing toward health. Invitation. Dear listener, there are so many things I want you to know. I want you to know that healing from trauma is possible. I want you to understand how being hurt, how living through trauma, how the difficult act of survival has affected you. I want you to know how all the things you did to survive and protect yourself have saved your life, and how they may also now be robbing you of the life you could live. How they could be robbing you of your ability to do the work you want to do in the way you want to do it. How they could be robbing you of your important relationships with the people you love and who love you. And most especially, robbing you of a relationship with yourself, of any kindness or compassion toward yourself. I want you to understand this because understanding how trauma has impacted you helps you know why the hard work of healing is worth it. I want you to know that healing is possible regardless of how long it has taken you to get here. No matter when you come to healing, it is possible. I know that many of you think that it isn't. I know you believe that it is too late. But actually, it's never too late. However old or young you are, healing is possible. Our brains are malleable and they continue to grow throughout our lives. The brain's ability to grow is what allowed for our survival, and that same plasticity allows for our healing. It will take work. It will take help. It will take practice and persistence. It may involve tears, sadness, anger, and frustration, but it is possible. I want you to understand how trauma works, how it impacts brains and bodies. I want you to understand the genius of our brains and bodies for survival, for getting us through. I want you to understand the mechanisms of trauma because understanding them will help you understand yourself and will help you know what to expect in the process of healing. I want you to understand how trauma works so that when you catch yourself doing certain things, your attitude isn't mean or judgmental, but instead you think to yourself, Of course, this is what I do. And then you have the ability to say, what else can I do? Understanding how it all works gives you a solid platform from which to grow and leap and try new things. I want you to understand that all that turmoil that can happen inside you makes sense. You aren't crazy. This is just what happens when you survive trauma. That doesn't mean that what you are feeling feels good, or how you are behaving is necessarily the best thing for you or is supporting your relationships. It means that what you are feeling and how you are acting makes sense in the context of surviving trauma. I want you to understand that all trauma is not the same. It can look like it if you are trying to find information on the internet. If you look up post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, you will find a list of symptoms and a set of recommendations. But it is not all the same. Just as physical trauma is not all the same. If you were run over by a car, there couldn't possibly be a standard protocol for your healing. It would entirely depend on how the car hit you. Did it break your arm or leg? Cause a head injury? Internal bleeding? And psychological trauma is no different. Trauma is the very definition of something being utterly shattered. And what gets shattered differs for each person. And I especially want you to understand what I call repeated trauma. This is the trauma that happens more than once. There is a big difference between the trauma that happens one time, like a car accident, and the trauma that gets repeated. If you are in a car accident, a whole host of responses are expected from any one-time trauma. When a traumatic event happens once, humans are generally spurred into action by their biology. A huge release of adrenaline that makes you ready to fight, ready to act, and that sharpens your memory of the event so you can remember it clearly to protect yourself from it in the future. But what if instead you were in a car accident every day for years? It sounds crazy. A car accident every day for years. But this is exactly what it is like when traumatic acts are continually repeated, as they are for people who live through war, or child abuse, or sexual abuse, or domestic violence, or gang violence. When trauma gets repeated, we have a different set of reactions. Our human physiology is built for efficiency. Traumatic events require a lot of energy. Our brains and bodies tell us that we can't afford that much energy and attention. So if trauma gets repeated, instead of gearing up, we go numb. When a smoke alarm goes off in your house once, you pay attention. If it goes off every day, then you cut the wires or pull the battery so you don't have to hear it anymore. Going numb is the trauma equivalent of pulling the battery on the smoke alarm. Going numb serves the important purpose of allowing us to go on with our lives. It is what allows soldiers to keep fighting and survivors in war zones to keep living. It is what allows abused children to keep going to school. It keeps you from taking in each new act of violence. It protects you from the extremes of emotion that could affect your memory, your health, and your safety. It is the emergency response system that your body automatically employs when trauma gets repeated, hunkering down so you can conserve energy. So, repeated trauma isn't just about what happened to you. It is also about how you survived it. It is about how you protected yourself from the years of it. In order to understand why it is so hard to heal from trauma, it is important to understand that repeated trauma is really three aspects of trauma that combine to make up what we call repeated trauma. The first aspect of repeated trauma is, what did happen? The experiences of terror and helplessness that you remember. The second aspect of repeated trauma is, what aided survival? The protections you create.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?